It's very early in the morning, and I watched a video of somebody talking about something that happened to them. I'm not going to talk about their name or anything else. I'm just going to say this much. Like, something that they heard, something that they said was that forgiveness set them free. Something along those lines. And I just think that's all bullshit. I mean, I personally do not believe in forgiveness. Multiple reasons why. I mean, in my own life, I've never been able to forgive someone and suddenly that makes me feel better. I've never understood that concept because, I mean, in my mind, forgiveness is just letting them off the hook for some crap they pulled. And, like, they don't need to be let off the hook. I mean, your consequences have actions, and you need to face those. Your actions have consequences, and you need to be able to face those consequences. And because me forgiving you means like, we can both just forget that this ever happened and moved on. But that's just crap. You shouldn't forget that it happened. And like people say that forgiveness is freeing you because like blah 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 it weighs down on your soul and whatnot, but that's all crap. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why forgiveness doesn't necessarily help. Why holding on to bad emotions can be good for you. I mean, for one thing, you need to be able to shield yourself. It's like when you tell a little kid don't put their hand on the stove, guess what? They're gonna put their hand on the stove. Probably specifically because you said to put your hand on the stove. I mean, that's just something the kids do. They put their hand on the stove and they burn themselves. But then they never put their hand on the stove again. Because you always remember what that feels like. And life is kind of the same thing. Except life is a lot more complicated. You never know where the stoves are. A lot of people are stoves, and you put your hand on them and you burn your skin off. You know what? A lot of people can be really damaging in your life, and that's just a fact. I know a lot of people want to be bright and sunny about it, but let's be completely honest here. For every 100 people that you meet, 2 or 3 of them are guaranteed to just be the kindest, most selfless person you've ever met. 2 or 3 of them are guaranteed to be total jackasses who only think of themselves and no one else. And then the rest of them, like, you have no idea where the fuck they're going to land. They could be anywhere in between. It's just a fact. It's just, like me, when people talk about how we need to stop, we're going into a real subject here, because like when it concerns rape, yes, I agree that people need to, instead of teaching women to defend themselves against rapists and protect themselves from it, we should instead just teach men not to rape people. But guess what? No one really taught men to rape people. It's just something that people started doing, men and women alike. They start doing these evil things. No one ever taught a class for a guy to find a girl in the alley and just beat her up, rape her. No, it's not something that you teach people. So even if you teach them not to do it, they're still going to do it. So do both. Teach men not to be racist and not to be rapist and to respect all women, but still continue teaching women to defend themselves and try to avoid the situation as best as possible. I mean, there's no matter what you do, there's always going to be assholes out there in the world, and that's just a fact of life. Some people are just innately evil. I mean, some people are just total dicks. Even if you teach every single boy in the planet don't rape women, there's still going to be 2 or 3 of them who go out there and try to. I mean, it's a sad fact of life. That's just how it is. So, everyone should be able to shield themselves from the stoves out there in the world. So not everyone gets to burn their hand on the stove. Me, I did it once and that was it. And now I know. When I'm cooking naked, keep my penis away from the stove, because that can do some real bad damage. So, I mean, it's a truth about life. When you have bad experiences, it prepares you for the next bad experience in life, because that's what life is. There's a lot of bad experiences that are going to happen. You can't just stop it. For some reason, it seems like people in this world are always trying to get you to either just not feel pain at all or to just forget about the pain you felt and just be happy. And I think that's just too optimistic of you. I mean, you're going to feel pain. That's just a thing that happens. You can't stop it. So you have to know how to deal with it. And another reason why I don't believe in forgiveness is because, like, just me personally, when I see the darkness in your soul, that's all I can see every time I look at you. It's like, and people think that forgiving is just like, and moving, they think that forgiving and moving on are two separate things. But no, they're both choices that you have to make. It's emotions are not innately evil. No one, like, anger is not an evil emotion. Sadness is not an evil emotion. Pain is not an evil emotion. Just like happiness is not necessarily a good emotion. Emotions are just things. They are things that exist. It's just something you feel. It is not naturally good or bad. It's just a thing that you feel. And what makes it good or evil is what you choose to do with it, how you choose to react to these emotions. Like, happiness is not good, it's not bad. People always talk about how happiness is the greatest emotion, but well, what if you're a psychotic motherfucker and it makes you happy to see other people bleed, and so you decide, oh, I want to make myself happy, and you start kidnapping people and just cutting them and watching them bleed to death. There you go. Is the happiness evil now? No. Anger is not evil. Jealousy is not evil. Sadness is not evil. These are just emotions that you feel, and you have no control over an emotion. The only thing you can control is your actions and how you react to them. Now, sadness and jealousy, insecurity, these things are not evil. They can, if you choose to react to them in a negative way, then yes, they can negatively influence your life. But feeling that emotion does not automatically feeling that emotion is not an evil thing. It's not automatically bad. And feeling these emotions does not automatically make you a bad person. It doesn't automatically make you any lesser than any other human being on the planet. Because guess what? They all feel those same emotions. They just do a better job hiding it. Ugh. And, forgiveness and moving on, they're both choices that you have to make. Forgiveness is making the choice to ignore what happened before and just let them off the hook, and just both of you just forget that this ever happened in the first place. But I don't want to forget. I mean, the mistakes we make in the past, most of the time, they make us a better person because we suffer the consequences. And so for me, I can move on without ever forgiving somebody. Like, I can just go on and live my life and be perfectly happy and just forget that this person ever existed, unless I see them again, in which case I'm not going to really make an effort to hang around with them because I've seen what's in your soul. I don't want to have to, I just don't want that in my life. And that's a choice that I make. People talk about forgiveness, but do you ever really forget what happened? People say forgive and forget, but nobody really forgets unless they just have a bad memory. These things, they stay inside you whether you want to admit it or not. I mean, let's just be honest. Forgiveness is total bullshit. Some people need forgiveness because they themselves are not personally capable of moving on without forgiveness. But that's not everybody. Not everybody is stuck and tethered and tied to this one thing. Like, for me, these events that happened in my past, they are things that I remember and I hold on to. But they don't tie me down. I don't feel like it personally hurts me in a negative way. I mean, other people might feel differently. They'll look at me and they'll say blah, blah, blah. But me, I don't feel sad about this thing that happened. I mean, there may be some anger there, but at the same time, I also know, unfortunately, there's no such thing as time machines yet, at least not that I know of. We can't change what happened in the past. All we can control is what happens next. And all I can work towards is trying to build a better future. And also, the last reason why I think forgiveness is just crap is because Sometimes holding on to those negative emotions, like I said before, can make you a better person. Those bad experiences can help you grow as a human being. I know that in my personal life, remembering all the sadness that I've experienced, all the pain and trauma that I've gone through, has made me more empathetic to other people because I've felt a lot of pain and sadness in my life. And so I cannot, and so now I've gone out of my way to try to make sure that I'm never the one who causes those emotions for someone else. If I have time to stop and think about the actions that I'm doing and that I'm causing, like if anything, if any action that I take, or sometimes if any inaction that anything that I don't do, can directly or even potentially indirectly cause somebody to feel suffering, then that will change like my course of actions. I am more open to other people's feelings because of the pain that I went through. And so you want me to just forget about the pain that I went through? Well, then it'll make it harder for me to empathize with them. And I know for me, throughout much of my life, through all my teenage years, the hardest part about it was that I had nobody I could turn to, nobody I felt comfortable just talking to and expressing my emotions to, someone I could open up to. And I still don't really feel that way. And so for me, that's something I've always been able to do, is just be there for friends and be able to listen to them, because I know what it's like to not have somebody there like that. And so I've always been somebody who's very willing to just sit there and just listen to your problems. Even when I don't give a fuck about them, I'm still willing to just sit there and just listen to you complain and ramble about whatever, just because I know it helps just to have somebody to listen. It can make all the difference. So, yeah, I think this video is dragged on way too long, but yeah, I just can't. I don't believe in forgiveness. Forgiveness is just. I'm not saying forgiveness is innately bad. It's not for me. I've never experienced a time in my life where being able to say I forgive you has ever done anything positive for me. It just never has. In fact, the few times when I did believe in forgiveness, it usually ended up, having a negative effect, because I was told, oh, they apologized, you should forgive them because that's what humans do, and then they kept being the same dumbass that they always were, and nothing changed in my life, and then it came to a point where I eventually just cut this person out of my life because they wouldn't change, they refused to change. And it's because I forgave them for their actions, and so they continue to do the same actions. So that's my experience in life. I understand that most people don't have those same experiences, but that's just me. I don't say you don't have to let the pain drag you down, but forgetting the pain ever happened in the first place is not necessarily a good thing. In the first place, most of the time, when people say forgive and forget, they're lying their asses off. I acknowledge the fact that all of these horrible, negative things happened to me, and I use all of these painful, experiences that I've had, all of these bad memories, and I try to make them and use them in a positive way, make them work for the better good. I'm hungry.